Okay, I'd like to call to order the May 16th Town Center Advisory Board Committee meeting. Could I have a roll call?
Committee member Stephenson.
Present.
Chair Leamy.
Here.
Committee member Castillo White. Here. Committee member Andrews.
Here.
Committee member Knight.
I'm present.
Committee member Rizzo.
Here.
Committee member, am I gonna get it right?
Probably not, but that's okay.
Kester.
Right, yes, here.
Committee member Hutchinson.
Here.
Committee member Prickett. Here. Vice Chair Allen.
Here.
Okay, if you'd like to stand, I'll lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so do we have any comment on non-agenda item? Anybody on Zoom have any comments on non-agenda items?
No.
Okay. All right. We had the minutes for the last meeting sent out to us. Do we have any discussion? Did anybody read them?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I move to accept the minutes from the March 14th, 2024 meeting as presented.
This is Carol. I'll second it.
Sorry to do that. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, so our discussion tonight is with Wood Partners, the proposal for the Confluence. So I will now turn it over to Marlene to introduce them.
Hi, everyone. John and I were just discussing how we would do this transition. We didn't quite figure out exactly how it would start, but yes, so we have Wood Partners here with us tonight to discuss their proposal that they had submitted during the RFQ process that we went through last year. In your packets, you got a copy of the RFQ that we made public when we were requesting qualifications from developers, so that you could re-review that and their original proposal. They have a presentation for us tonight, which has been printed and is on your table for you as well. And I had sent it to Carol virtually beforehand because I knew she was going to be coming virtually, but I did not send it to Will. I will see if I can forward it to him quickly while they're getting up here. But so I'm going to introduce Wood Partners, and they're going to basically go over a modified proposal with you and have just a conversation about what it could look like if we were to consider moving forward with them or asking the Urban Renewal Agency to move forward with them on development of this site. So I will turn it over to Wood Partners. Thank you, Kevin and Michael.
Thanks for the introduction, Marley. Thanks for having us here tonight. Thanks everyone for making the time to have a conversation with us. I wanted to start it off, I guess, by saying that we hoped to start the conversation. We could actually do some listening and hear from the Town Center Advisory Board a little bit more about both what its objectives are for the Confluence site and I guess kind of what happened with the capstone process, to the extent you're comfortable sharing. We approached this RFQ a little bit more like, I would say, an RFQ rather than an RFP originally. We did submit a proposal that you guys looked at a year ago, and I think you have on your desk now, but I want to make clear again that that is not has to be this way, or else we're not going to want to develop the site. I think we look at this relationship as a lot more collaborative than that if it's done well. We obviously need to make sure that the development is feasible, and that it's our role in this process to help inform everybody on what we believe as experts is feasible and what will get built. But we also know that we're not necessarily the smartest people in the room about what Troutdale wants or needs, and we want to learn from you a little bit more about what made the capstone proposal qualification package so attractive the first time around, and then what kind of went wrong throughout the process. So before we just sort of start spewing, and this is our new idea of how we're going to change things, that's not really why we're coming to you here tonight. We wanted to, I guess, reiterate that we had interest in developing the site, learn about what sort of happened, and then also hear more about kind of what your goals are for the site. And we're happy to then kind of talk through what we see as trying to strike that balance. And we listened to the Town Center Advisory Board meeting that followed, I guess, the official news of Capstone pulling out, but I think it'd be beneficial to hear a little bit more directly, I guess, what all went into that.
Who would like to go? Diana?
Hi, I'm Diane Castillo.
Hi.
I'm excited to meet you guys again. And I was here at the first time you guys did present. I did write some notes. I looked at Capstone again.
Mm-hmm.
And then I took notes so I could remind myself why I really enjoyed Capstone.
Okay.
So I'll just kind of do some bullet points. I like that they were trying to create a new place for the community of Troutdale. I was on the Urban Renewal Committee at the very beginning. We had a flyer years ago, and we passed out to try to get a buy-in so we could do the tax. What kind of funding did we do? Tax increment financing?
Yeah, they do.
Yes. Okay. And everybody was wanting to visit the river. They wanted to enjoy it in different ways and make it really an extension of the community. And so when they did their plaza, I can't remember what they called it. When they created their plaza, they were envisioning room for festivals. They had Hood River in mind. They featured the water tower, but then they created this big open space between the water and the water tower for people to come enjoy. And then they also had a building that I believe was a glass. It was see-through, envisioned, a meeting space. I don't know if it's for a hub for gatherings or what. So it also combined, it envisioned a bridge that would go to Old Town Troutdale too. So they were thinking of the connectivity to our Old Town right now, and then how we would use the water. They were really focused on people that created, so the maker spaces. They also the value they would bring, and jobs, and creating special places. So it was very open conceptually. It wasn't just doing a different proposal had made a tall story right along the walking path. So it would create kind of a tunnel, and it didn't look like something that was made for the residents that are already here to enjoy as well. So let's see what else. They were already seeking out people that were excelling in their jobs when they picked the apple cider, the hard cider brewery.
Mm-hmm.
They were rated the top brewery in Oregon at the time. So they're already meeting with people and envisioning having the experts in their field in the Pacific Northwest come and maybe fill some of those spaces, or purchase a space to occupy. Let's see. It was, room for festivals. They were focused on it being very welcoming and warm in architecture. I liked on some of their spaces, it reminded me a lot of downtown Portland where it looked like the garage doors that would open up, like the Division Street and others. So it was very, kind of like with the, I'm not calling myself old, I'm in the 60s, but with the younger generations that look like they're liking and they're attracted to create vibrancy, bring their families and bring their money and.
Yeah.
And let's see if I have anything else here. That's about it for me. That was why it was so attractive. And then I believe they had 2 hotels. One was boutique and another one, so they had one on each end. I know they wanted down the center. I was looking at their plan, and that's why they're saying they wanted something that was welcoming and warm. So when they did come in, they're trying to create a special place. And I'm not saying that it can't happen on the side. I looked at your plan, so when I was trying to figure out how that happens with a parking lot and that other space. So I just not sure how, maybe with landscaping and such, anyway, so those are my thoughts for now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thanks for sharing that.
Sure.
I'm Jeff Hutchinson.
Hi.
Just gonna take a look at the notes from back when we voted and take a quick look at what you guys presented with the draft. I'm actually the sole member here that selected you guys to do this project.
Okay.
Because I knew that Time Equities wasn't gonna deal with anybody other than their own developer. I also, when I listened to interviews, I was very impressed with you guys. I thought very professional, and you were very willing to work with us to make changes. It wasn't something that was in stone. So, but the negative that I put on this note here was project plan is housing intensive, high density with large buildings adjacent to river. So something that I've always been since day one on this is if you take a look at your draft on the far left, 4-story mixed-use building that's right on the river, adjacent to the railroad bridge. I always felt that that should be a community space. It's a short walk from the main street downtown. It's very scenic. You're right on the river. For example, open space, maybe an amphitheater, something like that. So I'm looking at this and I'm just wondering if this 4-story building here could somehow end up over here in the corner near the interstate, because I see some open landscaping here.
On the other side of the hotel.
Yeah. That's just my thoughts. And the other thing is that we discussed it at the last meeting. If the tides were to change and the outlet mall was to be sold to somebody else that wanted to get on board with this, maybe 4 or 5 years down the road, if you take a look at the grand entrance coming into the mall and you keep on going past the mall itself, you come right into that 2-story retail space, I'm sorry, the 3-story residential building. We thought that maybe it would be a good idea to actually have behind the mall an area ready for a grand entrance if in the future the mall owners were going to get on board and open that up. So the way this plan looks now, it looks like you're going right smack into a residential neighborhood. So I don't know if there's a way to have a buffer zone there where you can think ahead that if there was a grand entrance, how you can do that. And that's my comments at this time.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think we'll try just to listen for now and then kind of come back and talk to what we're hearing, but make sure that we're getting the larger group's perspective before we start, I guess, the dialogue, so.
I'm pretty much in agreement with what they said. The building's back further, so people have more of a walk area. I liked your one, which I really liked last time too, where you focused on the water tower and there was a center around it. Um, and I was interested, do you have anybody maybe interested already?
In the commercial businesses,
Yeah.
you know, based on the fact that we didn't get selected and we're just sort of having a discussion with you guys now, whether or not it makes sense to get engaged, no, we have not. I guess we want to make sure that the city of Troutdale's
Good
design,
Lord.
excuse me?
Oh, sorry, I was trying to listen.
Okay. That the city's desires for the site are compatible with a feasible development, and that, you know, once we can come to, you know, hopefully a sort of a place that works on that point, then, you know, we would be focused
Yeah.
on making those business connections.
People in the back of your mind, maybe?
I mean, our vision, I mean, it's in here, our vision for the site is similar to what Capstone's was. I mean, bringing in local businesses and making this be a special place for not just Troutdale, but for the whole Portland metro area is we think the potential for the site. You know, they had some specific businesses that they had brought to the table, but I think the ethos behind what they were thinking is the same to what we're thinking, which is people like that authentic, you know, Northwesterners like authentic Northwestern businesses and brands. People don't, you know, like to go to Applebee's as much as they like to do, you know, the local Portland places. So it would be our goal to try to attract those businesses, and we can talk a little bit more about our idea of how to create opportunities for them to potentially not just rent, but potentially build their own and be partners with us. Because I think we've got a lot of openness towards creating a commercial pad where, you know, a business could come in and make it exactly the way they want to. You know, if you think about Hood River and you know, Ferment Brewing right there on that sort of waterfront. I mean, that building in the co-working spot, in that building is designed with that in mind. And I think that's what makes it so successful. So I think having more flexibility on kind of what this space is going to look and feel like is going to get us to the best outcomes. But obviously you have to get to the point where the project's real before usually someone wants to commit to that.
Carol?
I think what I was concerned with was the height of the building and that there weren't that many homeowners that we were looking at being there. Because if I remember correctly, I'm looking at your proposal from last time, there was a lot of like apartment complexes that were in there. And so I was concerned about the amount of apartments and the heights of apartments that were in your proposal originally. And I would really, what I liked about Capstone was there was access to the walkway near the water, and it was more, sorry, it was more open to the residents of Troutdale, where I didn't see that as much as in your proposal from before. So I was just concerned about that. And then just the overall trying to connect downtown Troutdale of what we look like down there, or the small feeling that a lot of us feel like we want Troutdale to be, but somehow extend the older look also downtown. I'm sorry, from downtown to that area back there. I think would make it more Troutdale presentable, presentable, or what we were looking for. And that's what I liked about Capstone. They seem to have drawn what our wish was from the beginning. You were my I don't even know if you were a choice just because I've seen your buildings in the area and I've liked your work, but I just wanted it to look more like Troutdale, not like downtown Portland or what's gone on in Gresham. I just wanted it to have more of a look that we have already. And that Troutdale residents can go down there and feel like they're a part of it. It's not like, oh, I'm in an apartment complex, right? So they can go down there and still feel like it's, hey, it's my town. I can go down there and not have somebody look at me from an apartment building.
Yeah, I think I understand that. Thank you for sharing.
Sorry, I'm sick, so I'm not the greatest presenter or talker when I'm ill, so thank you for listening.
Okay, so some notes that I made on it, I was looking at your plan here. And as was commented earlier, there's some vacant property, it looks like, between the hotel and the freeway. And my thought was maybe move apartments over there and maybe center the hotel more riverfront. And the plaza that Capstone, I really was sold on that plaza down on Waterfront. So you got farmers markets and music festivals and just community gatherings there. And then another idea I had would be to move these, let's see, what would they be? The townhomes. Maybe have riverfront townhomes. They could probably bring in better prices than sitting back. I would just like to see the apartments maybe moved against the railroad track towards the freeway and keep the, let the noise there. That's my idea. I think that's, I have seen in the proposal that you have that looks like you're wanting to take out something. Apartment complexes, which would open up more space for potential plaza and more retail commercial space. We'll see how it works out. Zach.
Hi, Zach here. Appreciate you guys being here and still having the interest and flexibility that you guys kind of came in swinging with in the first place. To answer your previous questions, I would say the biggest thing for me was striking a healthy balance between providing the needs in the community for Troutdale residents, and then also capitalizing on making it more of a tourist destination here as the gateway to the gorge, and being able to flex the space comfortably between the two. By both providing those community spaces, like, I mean, like the openness by the river, kind of like opposite of what we saw originally when it comes to just kind of packing all the buildings along the front. I think for me personally, while it makes sense on maybe some aspects of it, if you handle the space right, meaning, you know, rooftop access, a little bit more creative thinking as far as using the space for public use. So if you have, like, you know, if you do have a restaurant or a makerspace or something like that up front, kind of like the ferment building that you guys mentioned, all along the top and the bottom there, or top and the middle there, you have open seating where everybody can just look out over the river. And like that kind of atmosphere could do well in that space. But I think also striking the balance again between having more of a community usage for residents who live here already versus packing in more residents, I think is paramount. And it looks like you guys have already started kind of facilitating some of those changes when it comes to the residential number reduction, which is good to see. And I mean, looking at some of your reference photos and everything with the new presentation, it looks like you have obviously been listening to kind of more along the lines of what we're thinking, which I appreciate. I know you as the developer wouldn't necessarily have complete control over like how certain little things are designed or who's gonna move into where, but I think overall by kind of creating that proper blueprint that kind of like Jeff mentioned, where we might be prepared to have, you know, honestly, I do feel, and one of the main reasons I kind of had hope for the layout that Capstone had was, it's really, I think it's difficult to make it work properly without like that throughway through the Time Equities property.
Right.
I think you guys did a great job with what we have, currently feasibly, possible at this time, but with the idea that maybe if we did have that option in the future, how can we look to maybe make those adjustments? It looks like you guys kind of threw some space on the back end there, potentially that has a little bit of an intersection possibility and whatnot, but just, yeah, just maybe rethinking maybe how that flows, coming right into the space versus going through, residential blocks, or what can we do to those residential blocks to make it more appealing when it comes to maybe interspersing more plaza areas there, or what have you. I think that's something to keep in mind. And then to Diane's point, or I think it was Carol's point, I don't think any developer was necessarily gonna be like footing the bill, so to speak, when it comes to like the bridges across or anything from downtown. But I do think it is important to have that kind of vision of connectivity when it comes to the old downtown area to that part of the property, versus just the trail that goes along, which is great, but the idea of this is to kind of create that continuing theme. So to that end, I would also be interested to see like what design elements you would bring into play when it does come to the entrance to the property that you've proposed, when it comes to making it a unique experience coming in there versus just an access road along the side by the Starbucks. Especially since that currently is the main entrance point. So I would want to explore that further for sure. And I think those are my main thoughts at this point, but thank you.
Thanks.
I really like the idea that you have, just reconfigure it a little bit. I've walked in towns where the hotels and things are right on the beach, and if you're on the bottom floor, you don't open your drinks because they look right in. Apartments are that way sometimes. If they just were reconfigured a little bit and we had a little more open space where the trail comes in from underneath the trestle. I mean, I like the open space around the water tower. The water tower's been there like forever. But I like that idea, but just to kind of reconfigure it so it looks, to me it looks a little, I'm very symmetrical, and to me it doesn't look symmetrical to me, but that's me, I mean, the way it's laid out doesn't make sense to me. But it's a great plan, and I like it. But again, we have to look at what looks appealing. From the air, we were not gonna notice it because we're not flying over it. But to me, I would know that it doesn't flow right for me.
Got it.
I mean, the townhomes could be further in and the apartments further towards the outlet mall, and move the townhomes around a little bit so they're not all packed in. And again, with in mind that maybe that will open up eventually, because if there's an emergency to get out of there, it's gonna be like, I'm a safety person. If I'm down there, I wanna know I'm gonna be able to get out without jumping in the river. So, I mean, but it's a good plan. I wasn't part of the original. So I'm coming in with no preconceived idea, but a little more open space, because we also have the depot hub, and that will directly connect into this area, so you want to draw people that way. So if that could be kind of like a connection, because people are going to go to the depot hub and they're going to go, oh, what's down there? And it's going to draw them, so they have to see something when they get there. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Andy?
Hey, thanks for being here this evening. A couple of questions. You got 790 parking stalls, right? And I'm not just exactly sure where all those are gonna be. They just intermix through the project?
Do you want us to kind of walk through the proposal? I guess are you the
No, it's
last to
okay.
speak, or you got
I
one
think
more?
I have a couple things, but yeah.
And then the other one is, we've got the 4-story buildings
Mhm.
that are kind of pushed back against the park. And it's probably gonna cut down on the energy that's created on the waterfront there with having a 40-foot kind of wall there as you walk along. And you've got it broke up a little bit, but those could probably be broken up a little bit more. And then, do you know what the trip generation was on this? Did you look at that at all?
We've not run those numbers yet, no.
Okay. Just because we've got quite a bit of residential going, and that's gonna create some trips, and I'm just trying to think about how 257th Way is gonna work going to 257, to handle that traffic piece. And then, so one of the things, we've been kind of on a huge apartment boom lately in Troutdale. We've had a number of fairly large projects go in, and we still have a couple more that are online. One of the things we were looking for in this area was more home ownership and trying to go that direction. And we look at, like this one. So if you've got the townhomes at 200 apartments, that's basically 15% would be ownership. The rest would be rental. And then if you go the 250, I think you're at about 12%. And so that's just kind of just seems kind of like a smaller number. And then we've got those pushed back, so is there a plan for any type of screening? Because you've kind of got the townhouses kind of pushed back towards the railroad a little bit.
Screening to the railroad?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we've got the railroad there, and then we've got the back of the outlet mall. And those are the ones that we're selling. I don't know. It just seems like if they were a little more front and center, they might be a little easier to sell. These are probably my biggest comments at this time.
Okay.
Okay, Will?
Thank you.
You have any comments?
No, thank you. I'm just listening. I really appreciate them being here tonight. Thanks, everyone.
I just have a couple quick things. I deferred. So I, along with Shirley, I was not in on the first round of discussions. I did watch some of the interview process, but I'm largely coming into this new. And so my big thoughts is, this is a piece of the puzzle of the larger community. So a lot of the focus, I think, for me, is on the interface points. Where this is connecting to the rest of the community. Because one thing we do not want this to be is disconnected from the rest of the community. We want this to be an extension of Troutdale, an extension of the existing downtown. Also highlighting the things that are already there, right? Highlighting the water tower, highlighting the waterfront, and giving it that community, the community gathering feel that I think everybody is looking for. To that end, I am excited about the idea of things like rooftop or terrace seating. I know one of the things that I have seen waterfront developments do in other metro areas to kind of break up the wall of residential when you have a tall building is, instead of just having retail dining on the ground floor and having residential above it, is at least on the waterfront side, having retail on the first two levels. And having nice wide open terraces and breezeways and such to open that up. That might be a possibility. Some of the questions that I had are probably one of the biggest ones is, in East County right now, there is a lot of vacant mixed-use retail. There's a lot of it. So I would be really interested to hear kind of as a developer, right, what your strategy might be to avoid falling into that trap of putting in a bunch of mixed-use retail and having it sit for years, which in nearby areas we have seen around here. And then I know one of my big things as far as seeing new developments go in is making sure for the residents, for the people who own or rent in that area, where are the critical services? Where are they getting groceries? And is part of that development filling that need? I mean, are we creating or expanding a food desert by this development? And then, and then I guess the last thing is, then probably my biggest concern about making the development too residential heavy would be its impact on critical city services, like the traffic, I mean, looking at traffic analysis and the impact on 257th Way that Tammy was talking about, but also on the schools. Is we have an elementary school that is only 6-ish years old. And if we go too residential heavy, is that going to completely overburden the local education system? So anyway, that's my thoughts.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, let's turn it over to you.
Marley, has there been a traffic study done on the site with kind of the levels of development that was expected?
No, there's not.
Okay. I know there's a sewer capacity study done, right?
Yes.
Just on that last point, I mean, any development subject to impact fees for, which is meant to be a monetary amount given to the city that is equal to its impact on the city's resources. So we pay a road impact fee, a sewer impact fee. Is there a school impact fee in the city of Troutdale? No. There's not a school impact fee, okay. There's a parks impact fee, okay. Yeah, school is one that some municipalities around here have and others don't. I haven't looked into whether or not Troutdale has one, but usually it's a fairly small amount, even in cities that do have it. But I guess definitely hear your point there. It's a point well taken. There's a lot to go through here, so I'll try to organize my thoughts here for a second. Do you mind if Kevin and I just have a quick chat out in the hallway for 2 minutes and then come back in? Okay, thank you.
If you need to close the door, just knock on it.
I did like some of the comments you guys had on the townhome location as far as, I mean, like realistically, if they were designed similar to what they had like on display for like Beaverton, like the almost look like a brownstone kind of look to it, like if you place them properly, I mean, there's also like, just again with the space, I mean, seeing like the huge open space right here by the freeway, it's like build up, I don't wanna see the freeway anyway,
Right.
like, you know, like put something good there, display like something to attract attention.
We can't give
but-
up this prime,
Yeah,
all this prime riverfront to buildings.
right,
There's gotta be an open space for the residents.
Unless it was gathering spaces for pop-up markets.
yeah, that's, I mean, that's
Do you know what I
great.
mean, like for
Oh, yeah.
the whole trail, you know, like
It's
the
true.
whole food fest I've been to and other things that, I
Yeah,
did.
that's sort of why I kind of brought up the two-level thing, because I know, because we were just talking about Melbourne. I mean, large chunks of their waterfront, granted, it's a very different kind of waterfront, but you've got, I mean, they've got 4-story buildings with residential on the top 2.
Sure.
And the bottom 2 levels is practically an open wall.
And Diane, like, I completely agree, I think we need that, I think it's just like, where are we gonna put that, right? I want that on the waterfront, I want that to be something that we are able to like take advantage of as a community, like, that's what we liked about Capstone.
Yeah.
They had that plaza space, like, where are people gonna sit and eat their food and like do their, like, sit down with their blankets, like, by the river ideally, right, not by the freeway, it's not by the entrance.
There's a lot of good views everywhere in here, and I failed to see that the residential apartments, that the lower levels were,
Retail?
retail
Mhm.
or
But
something
if
else.
you go down Civic Drive in Gresham, they built all of the main level of the, what I call the Great Wall of China, it's retail, and then it's,
Yeah,
Well, and
yeah,
that's just, because it looks like a wall.
yeah.
And if you did it more sort of, and they had pictures in Parenco.
Well, I mean,
To be fair, that's not design.
I was gonna say, granted, like, this is just like placement, it's not,
Yeah,
that's
it's
not,
not
they're not gonna
design.
look like blocks,
Yeah.
Right.
but at the same, yeah,
Well, the architecture and the approach can warm things up in landscaping as well.
Thank you for giving us a minute, so make sure we organize our thoughts and try to have an idea behind them, so,
coming back.
we're not way early.
We scared them away.
They left.
I saw his backpack. He had to-
Yeah,
We had it back. I use that computer every day, so.
sheepishly come from my back.
Yeah.
Do you wanna, can we pull up?
Yeah.
Okay,
Here, let me. Do you want some revision notes on?
well, so we took a lot of notes and we'll try to hit on a lot of the points, but I guess one thing we wanted to say at the onset is we're not here to convince you that the plan, this revised plan that we have in front of you is like what we have to build and is necessarily the best thing that we could develop. So appreciate all the specific feedback about this site plan. That's all helpful in making modifications to it. But I just wanna make sure you know our position is not that it has to be this or nothing. There are some things that we will say, if we can't get a project that has, roughly this many apartment units and hotel keys and retail space or town, like there's some overall uses that if it goes too down, it just becomes like an open space park, then, it doesn't make sense for us to be the developer of a true open space park for the city, right? So there has to be some level of, this is a commercial development, there's going to be a mix of uses, and so we'll try to hold those, points clear, that this is where we're flexible, this is where we're not, but we're not saying that this is the end all be all. Like I said, we're not the smartest people in the room. Some of those yellow boxes that you saw today, I drew those in PowerPoint, they're poorly drawn, we didn't wanna engage the architect again, so this is not, this is not a masterpiece. Yeah. And it wasn't necessarily meant to be taken that way, we're just like, hey, this is what we think we're hearing, you guys want a central sort of gathering place that's activated by commercial, and that was kind of trying to represent that, but there's a lot of flexibility in how we get there.
I've almost got it up.
Okay. And I'm gonna do a good job of shutting up some and giving Kevin the microphone as well, so.
Sorry, one.
Ask a question?
Sure.
While we're waiting for them. So one of the questions in the interview was about the market, where the market was back then. How have you seen the market change that would affect your plan, whatever?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's gotten worse. Maybe that's part of, I guess we didn't really touch on the Capstone situation so much. We took from the meeting, listening that it's primarily driven by their inability to get the entrance through Time Equity's property.
They wanted a grand entrance.
Yeah, we would too.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, like, absolutely. But it seems like the alternative is sitting around waiting until something happens there, and maybe it never happens, and then this great waterfront property where the city wants to create a park and create this destination doesn't happen, and I'd rather figure out a way to work around the constraints rather than get stuck with nothing, so.
Well, it has to pencil for you.
It does, yeah. I mean, that's a challenge of this site. The market for commercial real estate interest rates are very, very meaningful to the commercial real estate industry, more so than residential real estate. If you look at national reports on values of commercial real estate properties over the last 18 months, they've declined, depending on property type, somewhere around 30%, which is a significant decline in value. Thankfully, Wood Partners has always taken a very low leverage approach, meaning that we don't borrow very much money in our projects. Typically, we're only borrowing about half of the cost to build them. So if the property declines in value by 30%, it doesn't mean that we're upside down on our mortgage, so to speak, like if you're putting it in like home ownership terms. That being said, it has set the bar higher for new real estate development investment, because all of those buildings that exist already are basically on 30% sale right now. You can buy a brand new apartment building in the city of Portland for $200,000 a unit when it costs something like $400,000 a unit to build it. That's a great opportunity for someone who's willing to sort of, buy in a down market. But it means that it's really difficult to get investors to want to fund new developments when there's so many great opportunities to buy existing buildings. That's what we're up against. We are still, especially as a company, still starting a lot of new projects. Another great thing about us as a development partner is that we are a national developer with a local office. Kevin and I are Portlanders. We've lived here for a long time. We have a local construction team, but we are supported by a national company that has 20 offices around the country. We build in most major markets across the country. A lot of those markets are doing better than Portland right now. And that means that company overall is healthy. We have, I think we have something like $3.5 billion of projects under construction right now, and that's near sort of what we're at as an all-time high. So we're still very active, very busy. Our busiest markets are the Sun Belt right now, as people sort of flock to those Sun Belt markets. But especially great suburban opportunities that have unique locations, character, access to experiential retail. I mean, this site is great, I think, for attracting investors, but it's still not going to necessarily be an easy environment to do that in. So want to both give you some caution and also say that we're confident that we can do it. And you have the right partner in doing that. But this is not a very healthy, strong market for commercial real estate right now.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Yeah, sure.
Are you then open to breaking up development in stages?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're viewing this as Wood Partners as the master developer, meaning that we will entitle a site plan that has a mix of uses that includes apartments, townhomes, commercial space, and hotel. We will definitely build the apartments. We will maybe build the townhomes, and we will maybe build the commercial space. But another development partner will develop the hotel and potentially the townhomes and the commercial space. If the townhomes need to be for sale, we, as a hard line, do not build for sale projects. So we built condo buildings as a company in 2006, 2007, 2008. They were the riskiest, worst investments we ever made. We as a company said we will never build another condo building. And so we are happy to do the site plan entitlement work, create the townhome lots, and then find a partner who will build those townhomes for sale. The Wood Partners will not develop them if they are for sale townhomes.
Copy that.
We develop commercial space regularly as part of our mixed-use residential communities. Some of our projects have had up to 30,000 square feet. We have a project in Seattle we finished last year that's under my territory, 30,000 square feet of retail. That's about the most we're comfortable with if it's going to be us developing it without a retail partner. If the ultimate amount of retail, sort of standalone retail, ends up being around that or more, we would want to bring in a retail development partner to execute on that. We view it as we are, our track record, 26 years, we built 100,000 apartment homes. We view ourselves as, industry experts, development experts. We think people are probably specialized and better at developing retail space than we are, and we're not prideful about that. We think that our job as a master developer is to create a site plan that is both attractive to us, attractive to the city, but then also attractive to those other development partners, the townhome development partner, if there's going to be a commercial development partner and the hotel development partner. And we're trying to put ourselves in their shoes saying, what do they want to see? What's going to make this an attractive opportunity for a hotel to want to come in and build on the site, right? So I want to make that distinction clear too. So going back to your question, can it be on phases? I expect that it will. Okay. The hard part about this is that usually the master developer takes the role of doing the horizontal development as well. So meaning that we're going to be building any internal on-site roads, running sewer, power, basically creating development-ready lots that someone could come in and they could say, great, here's my power, here's my sewer, I'm going to build my building, it's ready to go. So that's a big infrastructure investment on our part to do all that work on site. So we would want to be working throughout the process early, making sure that, hey, do we have a hotel partner who wants to build this with us? Are they real? Are they someone who's going to act on it, this lifetime, before we make all the investment to create that, perfect sort of pad for them to go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The other big role that the master developer takes on is the establishment with the city always of the design guidelines and the design criteria for the various pads.
Sure.
To keep the development cohesive and to meet the goals that we've agreed on with the city. So that's a huge role, which I know you guys are interested, everybody's interested in design. But it is very important because sometimes you go to these master developments and they feel like 4 separate developments with 4 separate feels. And that's what a big role that the master developer also takes on.
That's a great point. And think like the hotel specifically, if we didn't put together design criteria for the master plan on the hotel, you might end up with just a Holiday Inn Express there that doesn't meet the character that you're looking for. So our role as a master developer is to set design criteria that matches, that's coherent with the rest of the overall master development.
Yes, Danny.
So you were talking a little bit phasing. So what would phase 1 look like?
Those are going to be, those phases are going to be driven by, I would say, the market conditions. Our plan would be to start the entitlement work for the site plan now, meaning go through land use approval process with the city of Troutdale.
And do all the public improvements?
Yeah, so we would start the residential buildings as phase 1, and we would hope that we would start the townhomes and the commercial, that someone would, if not us, at the same time, at a minimum. The only reluctance I have is saying that the hotel would start right now is that's a little bit of a separate market, but I think it's really important for this master plan to have that hotel there because you're going to get daily visitors who are they're not going to cook in their hotel room, right? They're going to patron both the retail businesses in this master plan, but also the retail businesses downtown Troutdale. So I think it's a fantastic hotel development opportunity. That's just the piece that I'm not 100% confident would start right away. I think it absolutely could, but that goes a little bit, if I'm being frank, to the reputational overhang of Portland. Our tourism numbers are down right now. I think the Gorge is underserved as a tourism destination from hospitality. I think there's an amazing opportunity here. I think people will see that, but that's a headwind that we have to fight through of, not as many people are coming in through PDX and visiting Portland these days. And so is a hotel company going to want to build a, $50 million hotel right now without having some better feelings about the rebound of Portland? I think they will, but that's just being transparent. That's that dynamic. That's a little bit different than residential, where we know the overall Portland area has still a housing shortage and needs more housing units. And so I'm more confident that would start as soon as basically we could get through the entitlement process.
So you build out the improvements, and then you do the multifamily and the townhomes, and then the commercial and the hotel would be more market-driven at that point? So that could be like a second stage?
I would say it's really early to commit exactly how it works, because,
Yeah.
so I appreciate everybody's plan ideas about the site plan. I think what we have to do first is get to a site plan that everybody likes and approves and works for the market. And part of what the site plan, how it's arranged, will dictate the phases a little bit. Right. Because obviously you can't, you wanna build your infrastructure and then develop around it, but the way the pieces fit together affects what is the first or second phase. Particularly when we're looking at, and market conditions, obviously, that's a given, I think, but particularly when we're looking at the makerspace and kind of that concept of an idea, is we need to see how we land at the final arrangement and make sure that the infrastructure to get the things they're making, the pieces that they're making in and out of the space and their visitors out of the space first. And that just might not line up with a construction site where somebody is starting the hotel, and they need more space to lay down. So a key part of construction is not just the space that you're physically building in, but you need a space to build that building from. So I think, well, we're confident that we would start the multifamily as soon as we're ready with the horizontal. The other pieces do matter where they're placed on the site, because we need lay down space to build the multifamily, and a hotel needs lay down space to build the hotel. The townhome builder needs space to build their townhomes, and same with the industrial. So I think it's hard to say what the phases are or to commit to what exactly the phase order is right now without a proof plan.
Yep. So I guess one thing, I guess what I heard most consistently is of what the community wants is they want access to the waterfront without feeling crowded by buildings adjacent to the Riverwalk. And the community wants a gathering space, probably around the water tower, to hold farmers markets and other types of community gatherings. Did I get those two big things right? I think those are exactly what we want to, and think that that's what's gonna make this site special. I know that if you look at this aerial four-story building next to a riverfront, might seem like it's a lot of building next to it. This is a very diagrammatic massing diagram that doesn't probably reflect what it's gonna feel like being next to the building. And we are flexible with moving these pieces around, but you know, our just to, I guess, explain a little bit about why we had it the way we did, you know, it does activate the Riverwalk to have a mix of uses, right? So we've showed a mix of apartments, commercial space, and hotel space. Our thought on the apartment building specifically is that the ground floor would likely have ground floor retail. Getting back to your question, Adrian, it is true that when retail is put on the ground floor of a apartment building, it tends to have a more difficult time getting leased than if it's in more of a purpose-built standalone retail space. The reason is because, you know, you've got big columns coming down from the building above. Usually you've got plumbing and other mechanical systems that are impacting that space. It definitely can work, but retailers like to have huge ceilings. They like to have a lot of flexibility in their space. The sort of idea of these standalone retail buildings, we think the retail commercial market will like that a lot better. So we didn't necessarily want to put residents right on the riverfront, but we thought we could do some ground floor commercial there. A good solution to that is something that we've done in projects that you see in the Pearl District. We did it in our Gresham project, is something called a live-work unit. So it's a 2-story unit where the ground floor is built and designed so that it could accommodate a business, and that there is these sort of sleeping areas or upstairs in a like a mezzanine. So it's kind of like a townhome unit on the first floor, if that makes sense. And what's nice about it is, as the neighborhood adapts, as commercial businesses interest goes up and down over time. Space could be used as a residence, it could be used as a business, it could be used as both. It's designed with that flexibility in mind. So that could be something that we do for that residential building that's sort of near the Riverwalk. And again, I'm not saying that we necessarily need to have that building exactly there. Our thought is that it does provide a mix of uses along that Riverwalk. It does put residents close to that pedestrian connection that is going to be going to downtown. It does put residents close to the sort of plaza public space as a way to encourage more consistent usage of that plaza public space. I think, I've worked on several projects that have plazas, public plazas, and you really need to activate them for them to be successful. I worked on the Urenco Station projects out in Hillsborough. Those are the first projects I worked on when I moved to Portland 10 years ago. What made that plaza successful is actually that the city of Hillsborough agreed to take 10 years of that development's park department impact fees, and use it as annual programming to create activities in that plaza for a period of 10 years. So they did an ice skating rink in the wintertime, they did farmers markets, they did all sorts of different stuff. The city basically said, hey, you're gonna pay me, I can't remember what the number was, say $3 million of parks impact fees. We're gonna turn around and put it all back into this plaza over the course of 10 years through programming. They also really wanted to see businesses surrounding the plaza so that people would be getting coffee next to it or going to a restaurant next to it. We did get a brewery to go in there. All those things activated on a daily basis, so it's not totally up to the city to activate the plaza and make it successful. But those are some of the ideas that we had in trying to create this space, and why you see those residential buildings sort of surrounding that sort of center space and next to the water tower. Again, apologies that this is not drawn very well. But you're really trying to create like there's a comment of interface points. You're trying to create like a central hub of activity and community, both people who are visiting and who are residents or visitors there through the hotel. Again, not saying that we totally nailed it through this concept, but that was the idea behind it, which I think is consistent with what I'm hearing you guys want to see. I might want to go to a different slide.
What slide do you?
Which one? You just let me know.
Maybe page 6, yeah, this one that has a little bit more of an overhead. Those 3 buildings there also don't need to be 3 buildings. It could be 2 buildings, it could be smaller buildings. I think that idea of having that plaza space around the water tower is a very great one. We try to put some green space just next to it too, just south of it, so that you weren't necessarily always on a paved area. If it's a hot day, you want to go sit in the grass, you got a dog, that type of thing. So we did put some green space just south of it. Yeah, right there. And I do think that the pedestrian connection to downtown is really important. One big concept that Kevin has done a great job of articulating is that we're not trying to replace downtown Troutdale as a commercial destination. We're trying to be additive to it. So in all of downtown Troutdale,
So if we build 25,000 square feet of retail space, that'd be more retail space than the rest of downtown Troutdale. So the market will only support so much space. It will have an impact when you open other spaces. Now, that's not saying we shouldn't have other spaces that attracts more people, but you can't build the exact same space. We can't build the exact same Main Street and not have an impact on downtown Troutdale's Main Street occupancy level or the success of those businesses. So I do think the makerspace idea is a great idea to differentiate yourself in a lot of your retail / makerspace. But I do want to have a point of caution that there is only so much. The market will grow when you provide an extra opportunity, but the market will only grow so much. And you will have a significant impact on the success of other retail when you add similar retail. I think we hit it, and I think I don't want to say it got lost, but for us, a big important factor of the trail between downtown and the site is that it is lit and people feel safe as part of the improvements to do this development. Because I don't think the dollar investment to create a bridge over the railroad track is probably feasible to support. So I think that's very important. And another aspect I wanted to touch on is the ideas of eyes on the street, but in this aspect, it would apply to the park. So while I don't want to crowd the park, we do want to provide uses that are in use in off hours that have vision to the park, so that people feel safe in the park and to deter people or unsavory elements from hanging out or camping out in the park. In general, the elements do not like being looked at. They don't like people being there. And that's one of the reasons why we did put the residential closest to the trestle, because while it isn't unsafe, it has the potential to feel unsafe to people. And a building that's generally occupied by some people all the time, it would be a beneficial use to that.
If you wouldn't mind flipping to page 8, this is our Gresham project. I guess putting aside the architecture, which doesn't necessarily have to be the architecture that we do here. So the top right corner is a picture of the public plaza that we sort of built around the train stop there. And what you see is retail businesses on that ground floor of those two buildings. All those retail businesses have an opportunity to do outdoor dining in that plaza, which creates a reason to go and a reason to have people be outside in that plaza, which has been attractive to commercial businesses and helped us get leases in those space. We also built a playground for some, a reason for someone to come who's not wanting to spend money on a business, want to come bring their children to play. There's also benches that people can sit at that are for public use that are not part of any retail businesses. And then that single-story retail building in the bottom right corner, that was our first retail space to get leased. It was leased to a Portland brand.
Japanese sandwich shop.
Tanaka, yeah. That was the space that everyone wanted, right? Everyone wanted that, and then once that got leased, we had to convince people it's okay to go on the ground floor. That just shows that purpose-built retail space is a lot more successful than having it in the ground floor. I think that's what we were trying to achieve there, and that sort of center part is like, hey, we want to bring people to this place, whether it's 1 story, 2 stories, could be 2 stories, it could be, co-working space in the top floor, that could be really cool too. But that it's not on the ground floor of a residential building, I think that'll make it more successful. And then the top left picture there shows our live-work units. And so kind of what Kevin's talking about is, each unit has its own private patio space. So there's like a little bit of a buffer between the public realm and the private realms, the public realm being the sidewalk. And there's a planter that kind of says, hey, don't go past that planter that's onto somebody's sidewalk or that's onto somebody's patio at that point. But the sleeping quarters are actually in that second lofted level. And so it's kind of a fine balance. Like Kevin said, you want people to be eyes on the street. You want activity because that supports a feeling of a safe, healthy community. But you also want the people being inside not to feel like they're on display or that they're that there's nothing separating them from who knows what's outside. And so there's a lot of architectural things that you can do to kind of make those spaces successful. That picture on the bottom left also shows how we stepped back the building after that first floor and took the units, I think that's like a 8 or 10 foot setback. And then there's patio space on that second floor. So all those second floor units that are above the brick have big outdoor patios. So that it invites people to be outside, additional eyes on the street. And then the pedestrian on the sidewalk realm doesn't feel like overpowered by the building necessarily. That's a 5-story building in that case, but having that step back and sort of a lower density use of an outdoor patio, I think sort of provides a little bit more of like a buffer space in between the public realm and the private here. Those are just some things that, again, these aren't exactly the buildings that we'd want to build here, but those are some things that we did at this project to address some of those exact concerns we heard you guys talking about. We're not architects. We lean on our architect friends to help us achieve these goals, but I think making sure that we understand and we agree with you what your thoughts are on the site and translate them into the design, those are absolutely achievable. I was afraid that I was gonna get a little bit mixed up in all the different comments without a consistent theme, so bear with me here. I want to talk a bit about the hotel location. Hotels love to be seen. They do still rely on some drive-by traffic, and also they like the exposure more than an apartment building would. So the main theory behind putting the hotel next to the highway is that every single person driving by 84 is going to see, hey, look, there's a hotel next to the Sandy River there. Be a great place to stay if we're going to the River Gorge or otherwise traveling. I also think having that commercial space be visible from the highway is important too. We kind of went back and forth on this, but if you brought all that commercial space all the way down to the bottom right corner of the site closest to the current downtown Troutdale and the railroad tracks, you might not get that visibility of someone driving by. They might not say, oh wow, there's a brewery right there. I'd love to go stop coming back from my hike and sit by the river. So we're kind of trying to balance those things. It is a highly visible site. There is going to be traffic noise. Generally, hotel residents are more likely to tolerate traffic noise than someone living in an apartment or townhome all year long.
I don't want to. There's two aspects of the hotel I also wanted to touch on for scene. Your hotel visitors are most likely to be your first-time visitors. So to put it out front and to be seen is much easier for them to see the hotel and know that that's where they're supposed to be, especially given that we're not going to be able to have the grand entrance through time equities, at least initially. That it's going to be a little bit of a detour. People coming to the site for the first time are already going to be like, just naturally, you guys have driven it, everyone here's probably driven it, you're naturally going to be like, oh, is this the right way to go? Even if you do the best entrance possible. And then secondarily, hotel visitors are more likely to come and go late at night and early in the morning. So if you put it deepest into your development, you're gonna have more noise and traffic entering all the way through all the residential spaces at different hours of the night. So those are two important factors that also go into the hotel's location that we think while we don't say that exact location is where the hotel needs to go, we do think it's important the hotel is kind of the opening sequence into the development.
You had an idea for the space next to the hotel for the trolley or the...
To clarify for anyone who doesn't know, another part of my job is tourism, so I do tourism and economic development, even though my title just says economic development. And we've been talking a lot, and part of our destination strategic plan is to be a hub for tourism in the gorge and along the Sandy River. And so we've talked with a number of the different shuttle providers that provide services to Multnomah Falls and the Waterfall Corridor about park and ride locations and ways that we can draw more of those tourists to Troutdale. And the Confluence is one of those locations that we think would be potentially a really great site for that, where the visitors would then be able to interact with the commercial spaces either before or after their trip to the gorge or to the mountain potentially, or to the Sandy River. So in some of the we don't have a for sure plan of where on the site that should go. It's just conversations that we've had about that could be a potential use, and how do we integrate that in the future if that were to be successul.
That'd be great. I think right across the street from the hotel could potentially be great if you lost that residential building there.
And one of the things that I've always thought is always been kind of a lost opportunity for Troutdale, being at the end of the gorge there, is that we've surrendered a lot of the tourism, the tour companies and the outdoor outfitters and such for the gorge to the Hood River, and for the mountain to Sandy. And we really could and probably should be a hub for both. And having something there where you have hotel space and the entrance to bike paths and tour buses and trolleys and such right next to hotel space, right off of the freeway, could be very attractive. And I think, and just having that essential billboard right there, saying, this is your tourism starting point for points.
Yeah, I mean, I fully anticipate that a boutique hotel operator, given that the limiting factor of both Multnomah Falls and Mount Hood Meadows is parking, would at least seriously look at their own shuttle for their guests, or some kind of shuttle service that works with everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, what a great spot to pick up a shuttle to. You park in a garage, and then, you could grab coffee from one of the businesses before you jump on the shuttle. You could, if there was that brewery with a connection to the river, go there after your hike. I mean, I think that would be, on every tourist list of places to visit when they come to Portland if done right. We love the idea of a parking garage. Happy to give up a residential building, small one to do it.
Yeah, and you made a point earlier about hotel development, and I just wanted to add quickly to that I have looked at the data for Troutdale in terms of like hotels and visitation, and COVID has definitely had an impact. The wildfires certainly had an impact, but one of the longest standing impacts is probably Portland's reputation, and people who aren't visiting Portland aren't visiting Troutdale. So, that does have an impact on us, and it's different than some of our other destinations in the state that don't necessarily have to rely on Portland, but because of our proximity, we do naturally rely on visitation that comes to Portland. And it's something that we're looking at, but also Travel Oregon. We work really closely with Travel Oregon, and they're aware that we want a hotel on this site, and would be a part of conversations with, helping assist us in recruitment and looking at what hotel developers might be best for this site. So they're very aware that we are actively hoping to have hotel development on this site in parallel process.
Sure.
I agree with Adrian that when you have a shuttle to somewhere, and especially if you don't know the area, it's easy to get on a shuttle bus and have them take you to a place than have to look for parking. And now that we have to pay $20 for parking at Multnomah Falls, a shuttle would be a little more effective.
It's not just $20. If you tried to book under the frequency from Memorial Day to Labor Day, the day it opens, they sell out the parking passes on a weekend day. So you literally can't go if you don't take the shuttle. And Meadows has basically instituted the same thing, that if you don't have a parking space, you don't have anywhere to snowboard or ski up there anymore. And they, on busy days with good snow, they close sometimes as early as 9:30 in the morning, the parking lots.
Some of us have no interest in driving up that mountain any time where it's even remotely busy, just because we know that.
Yeah.
It's Diane. I just wanted to have a conversation about you talking about the retail in downtown Troutdale. A lot of them are salons, professional, surveyor, eyewear, dental, tattoo. So a lot of those spaces are not occupied as retail. So I'm not thinking that will make an impact, especially since we're gonna have the pathway under the bridge as well. The reason I'm saying that is I think Capstone was so appealing to me as well, because they had the boutique hotel, the other hotel, and then retail, or the maker spaces in the middle. So they really, it emphasized that this was our space as residents. We talked a lot about not wanting to feel that we walk into somebody's neighborhood. So when you're talking about those bottom spaces, I'm really hoping that you guys think retail and higher ceiling. Like, I don't know if you've been in the burrito shop, and no disrespect to the burrito shop here in Troutdale, the ceiling's low. So a good thing that they have a reasonably priced product. I think that helps them stay busy, but it's not, it's not the ambiance with, like you said, with the ceiling heights. That's, I'm not sure that's welcoming or special. again, when I think of Hood River, I like the place, Solstice Pizza, they're baking their own pizza, you know, just those maker, the people who are excelling at what they do, something that's not just, no offense to it too, but the outlet, so you get the Subway, you get the Starbucks, you get, you know, and I don't know what else, and I think they went with a name that's very popular, so it's like a McDonald's where, you know, you can at least count on that for, you know, your shopping experience or whatever. So the more we can make it that we don't feel like we're encroaching on somebody's home. And that's, I believe, also why we liked the limited amount of living spaces. To me personally, I just talking me, I'd be okay with something more 4 stories towards the back, you know, to get those spaces. I know it's crunching numbers and things have to pan out and stuff like that. Where the front, we get the open space, we get the makers, we get the experience for tourists and for the Troutdalians. And then the other thing I was gonna mention is, I think you're probably aware of it, but our I forget what it's called, we have like how many low-income housing, we have our charts where we're deficient low-income housing, where I think we've got caught up, right, for our matrix for affordable, do you know what I'm saying? So we were like deficient in high-end housing.
It's our housing needs analysis.
Housing needs analysis, okay. So I'm hoping it's, since we're meeting the lower income needs elsewhere, I'm hoping that this is a little bit higher, so that even if it's, I was hoping for more sales, like council a long time ago said that they didn't like the idea of apartments. So I'm hoping that you're hitting that more higher end, just so that people have disposable income. And then the hotel, I love that idea because I worked at the Saturday market, I sold pottery for 20 years ago. And the hotels always bring new people, it's new to them. So all the retail spaces and everything, you've got new customers, new set of eyes, new opportunity to purchase. Just like in Stevenson, Washington, the boat actually stops there. And a lot of those retail tourists, Bloomsbury and some other boutiques and stuff like that, they get fresh people all the time because they make that on the dock their stop. So the other thing that I was going to talk to you about was the Grand Mon tribe wanting to be more active, I think, still in this area. Bummer we can't dredge things out and bring and be a destination stop. It'd be nice if we did that. Hood River dredged so they could create those areas where they have parks and stuff like that. But anyway, that's a dream. But so anyway, those were my comments to add to the conversation. Thank you.
I definitely hear and agree that you don't want this to feel like you're just walking through an apartment complex. I don't think that won't be, that's not our vision, and that hopefully is not the feeling you get from this design, but whatever design we end up with, we don't want that to be the case either. We want this to feel like a mixed use destination, one that has, like I said, a variety of uses, hotel, residential, commercial, and public space, importantly, and that that public space is supported by those uses, if that makes sense. So, you know, to make a successful public space, it has to be activated, and so that's why the density of this master plan is what it is, but also knowing that there's gonna be visitors through walking from downtown, visitors from the hotel, if there's park and ride, even better, but also there have to be a certain critical mass of people living there to use the spaces on a daily basis too. People are not just driving there just to sit in the plaza, right? So I 100% hear you. We're trying to strike that balance of hitting that critical mass, making a destination, and making it feel like hey, you're part of this vibrant area of all these different things going on. And that's gonna help attract residents too, right? Because they're gonna wanna be around that vibrancy, you know, I wanna live here because there's a river and there's a cool brewery and my parents stay, they can stay at the hotel, and you know, it's all additive to each other. So that's what we're hoping to achieve, and I think that we will achieve. So I agree with what you're saying. It's the execution is the challenging part, but I think all the elements are there. It's just about fine tuning it.
Yeah, I live across the street from Sugar Pine, and right away I go, you know what, they created a destination.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
so I don't know how many local residents they're getting to purchase full meals. But I'm seeing who's going there. I knew right away from the beginning, it's like, hey, you might not go all the way to Hood River. Things are like a reservation only, like other recreational areas that are getting overused are becoming.
Yep.
And it may become even more stringent, but they're using across the street from me with limited parking as their destination adventure.
Yeah.
And they're just near the river, and I don't know, I'm hoping we're gonna have really great signage to explain the Sandy River. It's pristine, it's clean, it's semi-glacier. It's just a unique, special place, and let them know how many different types of fish there actually are in there. And then that way you're explaining the environment, you're explaining the space, so then you can really even enjoy more the space that you're in, understanding the specialness of the location.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
What is the timeline on, I guess, the pedestrian connection to downtown and the city's park investment?
You mean under the,
Yeah,
Sandy River Trail. Do you wanna give an update on the timeline of the Sandy River Trail?
Sure, so the timeline for the Sandy River Trail, we are anticipating to start development later this summer, and for it to be completed by hopefully like late next spring.
awesome. And the notion of there being a bridge that goes over the railroad tracks, where does that stand?
Like a vehicle
No,
bridge or just
a pedestrian
a
bridge.
pedestrian bridge? So the Sandy River Trail does go under the tracks.
I think at one point in the previous RFQ, there was talk of potentially having a pedestrian connection over.
Yeah.
More
I know
directly
what you're
downtown.
referring to. I was
Yeah.
here. We have not advanced that forward because we cannot advance that forward at this time, because we don't wanna jeopardize anything with our existing permits with Union Pacific.
Yeah.
So once you start introducing additional,
They might not,
ideas,
they have
they
a
might
problem
not
with
approve
your
the
other
one that you're
pieces.
currently
Yeah.
applying for.
So you guys have to build the Sandy River Walk first, and then you can ask for that later.
And a frontage road, is that what you also they required you guys to build as well?
Yes, there is a frontage road, the additional road.
Oh, the
requirement.
access, the additional access road.
They're not the easiest to deal with those.
No.
The railroads?
Yeah. There's nothing like a company that was started, 220 years ago and just given all the land because they built the stuff to deal with them. What comments or questions have we not addressed that people
I was scanning that list.
Are burning?
I had a statement I wanted to make, and that is, I drive down Civic Drive in Gresham. I have a name for your complex, but, and I don't want that feeling on the riverfront, and I know that's 5 stories high, I want to be 4. But it's like, I call it the Great Wall of China up there, because it's this, you just got a wall going up there on the Civic. And
Well, I will
you can
say,
change the architecture on
the
it.
city of Gresham really wanted us to push the buildings out to the sidewalk.
Right.
That was actually, that's in their design criteria, and basically was why our proposal, why they said architects push all the massing to the sidewalk, they wanted it to feel urban. So that's what you have there. That wasn't necessarily Wood Partners saying, boy, we want this to feel really urban in Gresham. It was their vision for the civic neighborhood is a urban node that's the same kind of like pedestrian urban experience that you feel in like downtown Gresham or even like the Pearl District. That's what they want there. So that's why it's designed that way. Yeah. I guess just a little bit more like put it in context. Wood Partners, we develop housing of all different types. I said it's all rental housing, but we built 40-story high rises. We're currently also building 2-story townhouses, everything in between. Basically, we build the product that place, that the demand and the place and the city wants, right? So we don't have one way of building housing. We adapt to whatever the zoning code says and what the market demands, so.
The one thing that I know I mentioned that I haven't really heard anything about is the for the residents of, that would be living in this extension of our community, as well as the residents in surrounding nearby parts of Troutdale as they are today. There are certain critical things that people need that part of Troutdale simply does not have. And basic staples is one of them. Grocery, pharmacy, things like that. And I know those aren't necessarily the sexiest elements of retail development, but if we want to, I think if we want to have something that looks and feels like a livable neighborhood, things like that have to be considered.
Yeah. You're totally right.
I think to talk about grocery, and I would love to have a grocery store as part of development. The retailers in the grocery space are extremely traditional in the design and layout that they require for a successful store. Even a Trader Joe's, which is the smallest footprint, still requires an approximately 1 to 2 acre parking field immediately in front of a single-use space with all the parking space it requires.
There's some
Trader Joe's with that much parking in?
That if you actually feel out an acre, it's about 200 parking spaces. It's exactly what a Trader Joe's wants. So it is extremely hard to balance a grocery store in the space where there's limited visibility and limited access to it. Now, while we haven't done a traffic study, I'm not going to get into what a traffic study would show. If you look at the IT trip generation, usually the grocery store was one of your most intensive uses for trip generation.
And honestly, I would completely understand if like a Trader Joe's or like one of those, God help us, Walmart neighborhood market things that they've been building in recent decades. Something like, or even something just scaled down from that. It was like kind of a boutique food market.
You were like, yes. I've struggled with this too, because you go to like New York City, there's like little neighborhood markets.
Yeah,
they serve the community, they're fantastic. Like Korean Zebra started to try to do that in Portland, and they basically failed, right? They don't do those anymore. I mean, South Waterfront still doesn't have a grocery store. The grocery business is challenged, and you're seeing Safeway trying to merge with, was it Albertsons right
They
now?
already merged.
They already,
They're
merged.
Kroger is absorbing. Kroger's absorbing.
Sorry, we're gonna get lost down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, sorry.
But I guess I agree with you. I would love a neighborhood market in this location. We tried really, really hard to get a neighborhood market in Oringo. We did not lease this specific space for a year, like a year more than we should have, because we were waiting for a market to come. They never came. There just isn't a lot of operators in that space. Like you said, maybe there's the Walmart neighborhood center, but I don't think that's probably gonna happen. We could try. It's just whatever dynamics of that business, no one really does that space. Everyone wants to be in these huge grocery stores, maximum economies of scale. It's frustrating because I love the neighborhood market model. You just don't see it very much anymore. Sorry, it's a little bit of a rabbit hole. Jeff, do you have something?
Yeah. You talked about possibly the 1-2-story maker spaces, maybe reducing it to just 2. If you were to do that, would it be possible to take that 4-story mixed-use building over by the railroad trestle and get it over a little bit to the north so that we can create a green space for the pathway coming underneath the trestle and the water tower?
Yeah.
So
people walk behind the building rather than next to the river to get to the plaza? I mean, I think there could be 2 paths. You could choose, it could Y, so you can say, do you want to go to the river, or do you want to go to the plaza?
What I'm thinking is, especially like as a Troutdale resident, being downtown, going to the Depot Park, taking the trail underneath the bridge, coming into the new development, And then in front of me is a big green space with a water tower, picnic tables. Maybe in the future, the city could put an amphitheater there for concerts and things like that, or even a place to get out of the rain if it starts to rain down there. And then have that space, because as a resident, probably I'm only gonna access about 1/3 of this. I'm not gonna go anywhere near the townhomes or the apartments or the hotel. Everything's kind of, if they don't have the footbridge going over the railroad tracks in the future, then the only access other than driving in on foot is gonna be going underneath the railroad trestle. So kind of when you go underneath that railroad trestle, I don't wanna all of a sudden get hit by a big wall, 4-story building.
I think that part of the plan definitely needs work. I agree with you.
Okay, and then.
Thinking about the pedestrian entrance point from there, what do they see? How do they get to the plaza? I agree with you.
And that would be a great community gathering space. And like I said, they got picnic tables there, possibly an amphitheater in the future. People can go and visit the retail shops, get lunch, go over here, sit down. People on a nice day can have blankets, lay out on the grass. That's just kind of the vision that I had. And another thing is, as far as the way the buildings are gonna be, the way they're gonna have the look, it's gonna be a challenge to walk down Main Street, Troutdale, with that image in your head, go underneath the railroad trestle, and then come out the other side and say, oh yeah, I'm still in Troutdale, or, oh, I just stepped onto another planet. Because, it's kind of, Troutdale has kind of an old style look.
Yeah, if we go to the page 9, I think we put some kind of design precedents that we were thinking maybe more appropriate for this location. Those are just some starting points. Again, we're not the architects, but we are thinking something more traditional as well, not modern like the Gresham project.
Also kind of that Pacific Northwest feel where you have wood beams, maybe A-frame structures in different places.
Sure.
Kind of give you that look.
Yeah, I'm thinking more page 11.
Yeah, that's the hotel. Yeah, I think the Rush Creek Lodge there outside of Yosemite is a really, really neat hotel. I think would be a great precedent. The Allison's really, really high end and was very expensive to build. That might be a little bit more than someone would do here, but
one of the things that Troutdale residents, during a survey, a lot of Troutdale residents, one of their visions was to have more river access. So this is, with this trail going in that the city's putting in, of course, they have a lot of river access, but they have a spot where it kind of remains natural, doesn't have buildings right up against it.
Yeah.
Anyway, kind of my big thing is trying to have a nice natural green space as you come into this project. And I think it can be done without sacrificing anything that you have on there.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Thank you.
The connectivity of the site is unique, right? Most people will probably be driving around an outlet mall and access road to arrive. Local folks will probably figure out that there's more efficient ways to get there underneath, if it's not raining too much, underneath the railroad tracks there. So we need to think about both of those entry points and make them both successful, and thinking about the south being the pedestrian access and the north being the vehicular. So I wish, there was more of if it had that center access point, you could think about maybe people coming in a different way, but that's our challenge here. But I think we can make it successful. I guess we've got only maybe 10 minutes left for scheduled time. I don't know how strict you guys are on your meeting time, but I'm sure folks want to get home. Is there any last questions, or do we want to have any parting thoughts, I guess?
Well, I have a question for the TCAB members. Jeff made a comment just now about how, as a resident of Troutdale, he wouldn't imagine himself walking through the south west portion of the property because it's the townhomes. In a scenario where you're imagining open space that is open to the public and accessed by any resident of Troutdale versus townhomes, is there an opinion, if that were something where, in rearranging things, in order to achieve that open space, is that a use that, you guys are strongly feel as important, even though you might not utilize it yourself? Or would you prefer to see more open space that you potentially have more access to? And I guess you don't have to answer that question now, but maybe you can think on it and let me know later.
Can you ask that one more time, just to, like, more?
Yeah,
concise?
so if you're looking at the site plan, you see that there's the townhomes there. And one of the things that resonated with me with what Jeff said and what I've thought about in the past is that townhomes might not be something you would be compelled to walk through if there wasn't other commercial uses or other uses that you were going to see in them, short of you visiting someone there. So if you strongly desire open space areas and like an amphitheater or some other public open space that every resident in the city of Troutdale has access to, are the townhomes, which take up more land than the other buildings, something that you would potentially remove from a site plan in order to have more open space? Or do you want to retain?
I think we like the riverfront. That's really the prime location.
Yeah, right. And
But
I'm just saying if things were rearranged and if something did have to be removed from the site plan in order to have more of that open space on the river. So if an apartment building did need to be moved in order to have more open space on the river potentially.
Would you sacrifice the townhomes?
Yes.
The only ownership piece and us live, I don't know.
Yeah, I think I'm with Tammy on this. I think having that home ownership piece of this is kind of important.
Okay, so then that would be the stipulations that you would require home ownership, which would mean then that would not be the builder of the home ownership.
And that's fine with us.
Yeah, you would do the master site development and then sell it.
Marla, I wasn't implying that only walking, 1/3 of it was a negative.
Okay.
Actually, I thought of that as a positive. I don't have to,
Okay. Well, thank you for clarifying,
No, seriously, I thought it
because
would
I
be-
interpreted that differently then.
Yeah, I just thought it'd be more convenient to go underneath the railroad trestle and kind of be in that green space. Because there's people that may want to come here and they don't want to patronize a business or anything, they just came to be by the river.
Okay.
So that's more convenient, it's more connected to, it's more closer to downtown. So yeah, I'm sorry that came across like, oh no, I want more green space further away near the interstate.
Yeah,
No.
I misinterpreted
Okay.
what you said. I thought you meant that you wanted to be able to have more access to the entirety of the site.
So losing one of the apartment buildings gives us, which from our original proposal, gives us room to have more open space, more public plaza space, and potentially more like green space. We also had 4 green space nodes in our initial proposal, and some of those could be kind of moved around. So I think we can achieve good public domain space, both in a plaza sort of setting that'd be more like a farmer's market and a green space, while showing the same amount of uses that we have right now. It's gonna take a good architect to do it, but I think it could be done.
This is Carol. I like the idea more of a farmer's market. If we remember, this is for TCAB, is that when we built the apartments up by the old Safeway, Safeway was there, and then Safeway did not renew its contract. So I think that my concern is that if we were looking at a grocery store down there, that it wouldn't bring in what we were looking for, and it would just be more of a complex of lots of grocery store people attending instead of the town feeling that we were wanting, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it sounds
Yeah.
like there's agreement on that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for coming and listening to us, and I do appreciate that.
We're excited about the site. It's a very unique property, and we'd really love to see it be done well and be done in a time frame that we could all experience it too. So that's what we're excited about. I was gonna mention to you real quick that we have started implementing these these kind of quick markets as part of our residential communities that have basic essentials. There's some companies that provide just like basic stuff, but they basically operate a quick market in our buildings. So at least the residents of our buildings would have access to like toilet paper and water and things like that. But I agree with you that it's not going to satisfy the whole need there.
This is Diane. The factory outlet can also facilitate some of that.
Yeah.
Maybe they have enough space for Trader Joe's. If
That
they're
would be
hurting,
awesome.
you know what I mean? And so prayerfully,
Yeah,
there we
nobody-
pick, I know.
Nobody ever got mad about a Trader Joe's.
Yeah, well, that, there could be a cooperation of equal
Yeah.
success for whomever
Well, we
does
know,
the waterfront, you know, and then there could
Yeah.
be some, yeah.
we know Trader Joe's had been circling Gresham for a while. They were considering the retail property just south of our project. I think it's called Gresham Station, where the Best Buy is. They ultimately did not get a deal done. Jordan Stitzer's company owns that property. They were close, but it didn't happen. But we know they're interested in something East County. They do a lot of radius drawings, so this property is going to suffer from the fact that half the radius has almost no people living on it, maybe even more than half the radius, because you have the river on one side and the forest on the other. But yeah, we would love a grocery store closer to this.
I look at all of the people that we're trying to attract in and how the state is kind of forcing the city and developers to, or if not outright forcing, encouraging to have less parking.
Yeah.
And if we really want to make that work, and still have these areas be livable, I mean, people gotta eat.
Yeah.
And if we want to have, and so someplace where they can get food that's within walking distance is gonna benefit a lot of people, and it's gonna make those food businesses and everybody nearby, a lot of foot traffic, and that's what these retail places need is foot traffic.
Yeah. I agree. Anything else? I guess this is just a conversation kind of tonight where we wanted to hear better directly from you, your goals, kind of start a dialogue. Marley, I guess I'll leave it up to you on what the board wants to do from here, but I guess just my parting thought is hopefully in my introductory comments, just to reinforce it here, we view this as a collaboration, like a dialogue. We're not saying this is the way it has to be, and that's true now, but it's also going to be, true throughout the process. Obviously, you can't have 25 people all designing one project. That doesn't ever work. It's our job to hear the information, synthesize it, and do the best we can. But hearing everyone's input and also hearing the community's input more directly is what our goal would be. So I think that was a great start here tonight, and so we remain interested in the property and would love to be the development partner.
So Marley, I have a question.
Sure.
Do we want to ask them to come back with a new proposal? Take what we've told you on paper and.
I think before we do that, we need to have a conversation with the city manager
Okay.
and potentially the urban renewal agency on whether they would be open to that, because I wouldn't want them to go through, additional planning efforts if that's not the path forward that they're wanting to take. So I think that we need to have, conversations within the city about what that next step would look like before we make a decision on what the next step actually is.
Right.
Yeah. Since we're not acting within that RFQ currently.
Yeah, I don't think we came thinking you guys were gonna, we're ready to go. I think we came just to have a talk and just let you know we're still interested and open to being partners.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Having us.
So next steps, we will talk with the city manager and figure out what the next steps are. And then come back to you all. Thank you. Continue that talk.
But we need to let.
I appreciate y'all
Okay,
having another
thank you.
conversation.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you for your time.
let's come out of this.
Yeah, we just need to ask if they want the process, if they want to be. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All righty. Staff communication.
Staff communications. Let's see here. Well, we're getting into summer, so the first Friday art walks are coming back. June through September from 5 to 8. We have the Troutdale Arts Festival on June 8th and 9th in downtown Troutdale. The artists who are at that event are different than the vendors at First Friday, so you should come to both events. We will have shuttles operating, and you can pick them up from Edgefield or the Outlet Mall, I believe, I need to confirm that, or Glen Auto Park. So all that information is going to be online, and you can check it out on the city website to get more details on that. But that event will be going on and will be very fun. And the first Fridays will be very fun, and then we'll have the cruise in August. And those are some of our bigger events that are going on. There was a comment about Multnomah Falls earlier.
Oh,
that-
yeah.
So I thought I would just mention that we do have a webpage on Explore Troutdale that is your guide to visiting Multnomah Falls, and it details out everything you need to know about how to get to Multnomah Falls. It's on www.exploretroutdale.com/Multnomah Falls. So that guide is really helpful. We made sure to detail how to take a shuttle there, how you can park there, what permits you might need, how to ride a bike there, everything you could ever possibly want to know. So if you have questions about that, please refer to that website. Let's see, we're currently conducting our, we have the Sandy River Shuttle feasibility study happening right now, so we're working with our consultants on that. And then we're also conducting a downtown parking study. John is representing TCAB on that technical advisory committee. Tanny is representing Planning Commission on that technical advisory committee. So they both will be a part of that process from the advisory committee standpoint. There will be public engagement involved in that process as well, but we're looking at it's really sort of a combination. It's one technical advisory committee for two different projects. It's the Sandy River Shuttle feasibility study. So we're looking at what it would take, what we would need to do to create a Sandy River shuttle where someone wouldn't need to park two cars, or potentially not even need to bring a car at all to be able to float on the Sandy River. And we're working with state parks, Forest Service, Metro, ODOT, all the players on finding out if that's possible and what it would take and how we should design routes and all the above. We're also doing a downtown parking study. This is something that's been planned for many years. We couldn't do because of COVID, and now we're getting around to doing it. So this is a parking study that's gonna look at the downtown and Glen Auto Park to determine what the existing conditions are for parking, ways that we can improve parking, whether we are deficient in parking or sufficient in parking, whether the new developments that are coming into town will cause us to potentially be deficient in parking or not. So looking at all the different things that we need to know about proper planning for parking within our downtown. So both of those projects. Do you have any other staff updates that I'm forgetting?
There's going to be a community walk next Wednesday at 5:30, and I believe, we have a couple little handouts back there if you want to know more about it. I believe it starts at 5:30 and will last about 45 minutes to an hour.
Yep. Yes.
Okay. Board member?
Are we doing that Wednesday farmer's market thing
Oh,
in
yeah,
Mayor Square again?
it's on Tuesday, but
It's on
yes, the Tuesday, it's called Music at the Market. It is going to be every Tuesday in July and August, and it's going to be a small farmer's market and live music at Mayor Square. So activating that park on a less busy day, it'll start at 4:30 and I believe it goes till 8. We chose 4:30 as the start time this year versus the time that we had it start last year because we wanted to make sure that those people who are working in our downtown could also visit the farmer's market after they got off work. So yes, that will be, thank you so much for reminding me that that is another event that I am planning and need to work on right now. Yes.
Okay, and then I noticed that they just mowed the field.
Yes.
Are we planning on letting people park there for the June?
That is another great question. You're full of them today. Yes, for the June 1st Friday and the Troutdale Arts Festival, we do have permission from Home Forward to use that parking lot because the property will have transferred ownership between now and then. So they did give us permission. They won't have begun construction by then. So that is for us to use for overflow parking for those events. For the other events, we will not have access to it. And so we'll have shuttles for all the events, but yeah, that one we won't.
Do we have, has Home Forward given you anything resembling a concrete start date on when they're gonna start moving dirt?
Mid to the end of June.
Okay. That's all I have.
Diane?
I would hope that we could send this video to the council so they can review it. Personally, I would recommend to them to, since we had another conversation, I would recommend to them to open up the whole process again for whatever period of time to allow anybody else who had a voice or something new. And then I appreciate what's coming out. I think they're pulling it, you know, if we consider others as well. But anyway, that would be my thought. My hope is that, yeah, it might be a short period of time window or whatever, but just I'm thinking that other people would have the same opportunity. That's it.
This is Jeff. I wanted to get an update on that Sandy River Townhome property that's up for sale.
Yeah, the four lot property. Oh.
Is it still for sale?
I don't know if it's still for sale or not. I do know that it has a land use application that's been approved for it. That's all I know.
But then it went up.
Is it a
for
type
sale
2? Because we could make it a type 3 application. Or is it too late for that?
It's been approved.
It's been approved.
Yeah, that got approved, yeah.
Yeah, so we did provide our comments for that, and it was a type 2 application.
When were public comments for that?
When we met on it, and provided the comments for it, we had a whole meeting that we had and we
No, a
discussed.
meeting, right, but it was type 2 then. It's always been type 2, correct?
Yeah.
Right.
You had mentioned that if the developer, before he put it up for sale, that if he didn't get his permits in time, the process is gonna renew, and it's possible we could make it a type 3 application.
Oh,
But he has,
yeah,
Yes.
Oh, he has 2 years?
yes. The
Okay, so
approval,
it's still in that 2-year window, so
Yeah,
the,
correct.
whoever buys it, it's under the same,
yes.
okay.
Yeah, so we haven't hit that point yet where it would, those would expire. I don't know if it's still for sale or not. I drove by it earlier today and I noticed that the post was there, but the like for sale sign wasn't.
Just laying on the ground.
Okay, well,
falling
see, and the grass was really tall, so I couldn't tell.
Yeah.
And I noticed the banks of the Beaver Creek are giving away. Maybe from that winter storm they had or something, but yeah, that property does not look like ready to go.
Yeah, there were a number of conditions of approval that, the other review entities had that, like, they would need to submit in order to finalize or move to the next stage of that process. And we have not heard from the developer in a while, from what I've understood. So they know what's required of them and chose to put it on the market, and so, you know.
Another thing, just a little bit off topic real quick. Do you know the status of the Away Days restaurant and brewery? That's been going on forever. Ray Young told me like a year and a half ago it was gonna be done fall of 2023. Now we are almost in the summer and it's, who knows?
So they do have their permits, they have been working in the building, and working on the project. I don't have an exact date that they may be opening, but we have asked them for, a schedule, for the work that they need to complete. So
The whole subfloor is torn up and it's, you look inside and it's not even, the interior is not even close. But they put siding, they put a new roof. So they're putting money into it, expecting some end to this, but I guess the building department would be the place to go to get information, right?
Correct.
Okay, I'll do that, because I'm curious. That's it for me.
Nothing? So Marley alluded to the cruise in. The cruise in is August the 3rd. It's going to be from 2 to 7 this year.
Oh,
You haven't seen the permit requests?
I have not.
Yeah, you've seen it. Yeah, 2 to 7.
2 to 7.
Yeah.
Might have to try to get my Studebaker.
Noon.
That means we need to modify your road closure permit.
And anyway, so yeah. Marley wanted it moved, so.
The request was not from me single-handedly, it was from businesses that felt like once the event ended at 2, that everyone left downtown, the energy was gone and that no one was.
Well, there are businesses that hate us anyway, that we should move it to a different day of the week because it messes up their hairs. People. Anyway, no, yeah, but I've talked to some car clubs and various people.
Great.
And they're actually excited about doing an afternoon one.
Yeah.
And Camus does theirs in the afternoon on a Saturday, so.
Yeah, no, I think that'll be great because for a number of reasons, I think that the appointment-based businesses that want to operate will have been able to be operating for most of the day and they'll only be impacted in those last couple of hours, so that addresses one of their concerns. And then, it's during the dinner hours and into the evening, and so it adds that energy around dinner time in the restaurants and whatnot, so thank you, John. I appreciate that, and I hope that downtown also appreciates your efforts to do that.
Yeah, this is Zach. I just want to say I'm cautiously optimistic about, the future of the Confluence still at this point. And I did spend the last few days in Bend. Went to a concert there at the Hayden Homes Amphitheater, right across from the Old Mill District, and just hanging out in that area. I was obviously, drawing comparisons and thinking more about what we have in mind and just the general vibe that we're going for here. And I do feel like as long as we all kind of keep our heads on the forefront of the town center plan like we have been, and just collaborating and everything, and keeping an open mind while at the same time holding firm on our moral compass for the community, so to speak, that we'll still get somewhere good with this potentially, with whoever we end up going with. But I was glad to see them come back with a very collaborative attitude towards everything, which is great. I am still interested in pursuing more of a conversation or work session on like design, aesthetics, implementation, and everything like that for like the town center district and everything we talked about before. So I do want to throw that back on the radar as a potential future item for us to discuss and kind of start locking down some details here and there as we go along. Yeah, that's all I got.
Being new to all this, thank you. I've opened my eyes a little more because I live up the hill, the other part of Troutdale. parking, like you said, is an issue, because that's why I don't come down here. I won't even ride the bus down here. I could walk down here, but going back home would be a little hard. Especially if you had, too much to eat. But it's nice to see that we're trying to keep that Troutdale, and not another piece somewhere else. Thank you for all your hard work, both of you. We appreciate it. I know it's hard, because we got all of us. But yeah, thank you. I'm learning a lot.
Me?
Yeah, you're it. Tag.
Yeah, Carolyn will too.
Uh-oh.
You always have something.
No, I just heard people talking about things like grocery store.
Right.
I mean, it's gonna be tough. I couldn't put one in South Waterfront with 4,600 homes and 3,500 employees.
Well, and if you look at the Vancouver River Walk, there isn't a grocery store to be had there, because they just don't.
And it's just like, this isn't, I would love to see some of those things, but this isn't gonna be really conducive for that. So we just have to get more creative and do something maybe different someplace else to get what we need.
For sure. Like an indoor farmer's market year-round down there?
No, I think we got room to do, we could do a format somewhere, there's things we could do.
I don't hate that idea though.
Well, no, I'm just thinking that would
Yeah.
A weekly market.
I mean, I don't wanna run it. Let me make that clear now.
Oh,
I don't wanna be in charge of that. But it sounds great.
Well, like I said earlier, I really like the farmer's market idea, to be in there like a Saturday market or whatever. I think a grocery store down there it's too much, and I don't think that's what we're looking for. I think it'll change the whole environment of what and the feel that we're looking for down there, and I don't think that's where a grocery store should go. But that's my opinion.
definitely not a Walmart.
Well.
Not a Walmart.
And to be clear, and I'm not talking Safeway, right? It's something appropriately sized, something appropriately charactered. But the reality is that trying to get basic staple foods for anybody that lives anywhere near the town center is just too far away.
Then do deliver now.
Yeah.
They deliver now.
Well, it's just, you need so many thousands of people
Yeah.
to make a store function.
You could possibly have something like a 7-Eleven size store that has a very small selection of groceries.
Yeah.
I've seen small
something
communities have
boutique-y,
that.
something small, but
It'd be a place where people outside of Troutdale wouldn't be coming to go to there, because it's like, you're gonna walk in, it's like, there's nothing here. But for the people that live there, they can get eggs, milk, bread, meat, basic things. So you probably still have to eventually get stuff,
They could get that at Love's. Love's has better, health.
Green
and other
downtown
stuff,
Troutdale.
And then if you had a farmer's market there on the weekends, or you had something like that, then you get fresh produce and fruit.
Yeah.
It's supplemented a little bit.
and getting creative about it is certainly good. It's just, if we want to try, and I think we do kind of want to try to make a walkable community, even though the reality is that everybody is gonna be driving, but if we wanna do that, we gotta have the things that people need to live.
It would have to be a walkable store, because a grocery store needs a lot of parking spaces. They're saying Trader Joe's needs at least 200 parking spaces.
Well, and the only Trader Joe's I've been around is the one down on, in Portland.
Oh, yeah, you can't
park
park, you gotta drive in
And
circles.
there are not 200 parking spots
No,
in that.
there's like 40.
Yeah.
You might park in the next time zone.
And the city wouldn't give them 200 parking spots anyhow.
No, not a chance.
Well, there was that one store that went in downtown Gresham over by the library. It's now a beer place or something, anyway.
It didn't last long.
And it never made it, well, she was overpriced too. In order to run it, she had to charge higher prices than you could buy in a grocery store.
I know, but out here, they think everything's overpriced.
Right, well, anyway, she ended up closing it up.
Yeah.
But don't we also have the bus line? I mean, people can go off of there on the bus, go up the hill to Safeway and come back down. Yeah, I know, that's just a joke, but there is a bus the bus that goes there, because I see it all the time. I don't know how often it comes, but they can take them to the Safeway, or they can Uber their food. I mean, there's so many other ways. I mean, there are places that I go that I have to drive miles for a grocery store.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's not next door, and I mean, I think we have to look at reality of what we really want there. And from my get-go from the beginning, that's not the feel that we wanted down there.
But that bus goes up to the college, doesn't it? So
It goes all the way through to Gresham.
You'd have to get off on 257, walk to Safeway, come back and meet it, wouldn't you?
That's
Right.
correct.
Yeah,
And it runs about once an hour,
right.
and on the weekends, it's even worse, so.
So, yeah, it's not running right by Safeway, it's in the neighborhood.
I'm not saying it's ideal, but I mean, you don't always have a grocery store on every corner, and we're not Portland. I got to remind people, we're not Portland, we're Troutdale. We don't want to become Troutdale, or we don't want to become Portland. That's why we're in Troutdale.
I guess I would say to that, as much as you can, you want to have as many goods and services available, because that keeps people in the community.
Exactly.
What you have now is when somebody needs to go get something, they leave.
Right.
And then that they could get here, they don't get here, they get them in Portland or Gresham or wherever.
Yeah,
And so that
exactly.
actually hurts all the other businesses that are here.
Right.
And that's exactly my point, is like, if we want Troutdale to be a small town, we want the people who live in Troutdale to be able to get the things that they need in Troutdale. And right now, they can't.
But they all closed down. I mean, all we have now is the the Safeway that was the Albertson.
Yeah.
We used to have a Thriftway long ago, and then.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's easy.
If the businessmen don't wanna come here,
Yeah, but but that's sort of, the thing that I guess, anything that we can do to encourage the, developers, and through design standards and development codes or whatever, to find creative solutions to get the people who live here to be able to work, play, eat, live here.
Dean Herford's Corner,
Yes.
that works?
For what?
Yeah, Trader Joe's, whatever. He's got a couple acres,
It's another tricky lot, just with the shape of it and how much parking you could hypothetically fit in there. And then within the town center, we do have restrictions on the size, the square footage of a singular retail space. So if it passes that threshold of like, which I don't know that necessarily would, but I'm just saying there are different retail restrictions within the town centers, that it is smaller scale retail versus the big box stores.
You're right, most of the stores are gone. I had one in Fairview that's now a motorcycle shop. I had one in Troutdale that's now a charter school. And another one that's now gonna be a pickleball court.
Yep.
Well, and the reason.
It's called O for
Talking
3.
about his
I think-
third place store, yeah.
I think the reason
Well, at least it's still
Safeway
put
closed
the art
was
down.
because of the roof.
Yeah,
cost.
the roof
roof
collapsed,
caved in.
and they didn't want to
fix
put
it.
in, pay the money to
Because they
get into
consolidated.
codes.
Yeah.
And
Well-
I thought that with them building those apartments, I thought, oh no, you guys are coming back, and then they never came back.
No, because Albertsons and Safeway are owned by the
Yeah.
same people.
Right,
Yep.
And it doesn't make sense to have both of them.
And soon.
Well, despite the fact that the Albertson, or the Safeway, now Safeway on Stark, When the other Safeway was there, I mean, they lived and breathed foot traffic and transit traffic. And their parking lot, when the big Safeway closed on Cherry Park, I mean, they got swarmed and swamped. They couldn't keep up. I mean, things are finally evening out, but I mean, it's a very different kind of traffic now with the big Safeway gone.
Yes?
Yeah, I can walk to the store, but then I don't live in downtown Troutdale, so I'm within like 3 blocks of the store. So I can walk,
Of the Safeway store?
yeah, of the Safeway store.
Yeah.
So I can walk, but it would be nice if I could. Mass transit to me is not appealing, I'm sorry. It's not, to me, it's not safe for me to ride alone. I used to ride it, but I won't ride it anymore.
Or when they get down to 257th, it'll be safer to walk.
Oh, yeah, tell me about it.
So Will, do you have any comments?
Yeah, not so much. I just say this has been a great meeting. I appreciate the team for the excellent questions and comments. You guys pretty much covered everything I had to add. Whenever I had a thought or a question, one of you amazing people chimed in. I thank the guests for coming back to visit us and listen to our questions and answer the comments, and definitely look forward to seeing what comes back and then continuing the discussion in an effort to hopefully move the vision forward. So thank you everyone for your time and attendance, and really appreciate you all.
Anyone move that we adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay.
If anybody says,
Aye.
You know the rules.
So weird.
We lost Sam because we
Yeah.
talked too long about those stores.
All right, then.